Coatham Mundeville is a village in the borough of Darlington in County Durham, on the A167 between Darlington and Newton Aycliffe. It is the vestigial remains of a larger medieval settlement named Cotum upon Skerne, which was of two parallel lines of houses, still visible as a series of earthworks surrounding the modern village. The Mundeville family held the manor until Thomas Mundeville sold it to Galfred Russell in 1274. This same Thomas de Mundeville left money so that a chaplain could celebrate a mass every day in a chapel in the village for himself and his parents. This chapel, dedicated to St Mary Magdalene, was last mentioned in 1680, when it was in ruins. It is believed to have been in what is now the pub car park of the Foresters. Christine Lupton, whose parents ran the pub in the 1950s and 60s, stated that the site of the chapel is marked on an old Ordnance Survey map as being in the field behind the Foresters' Arms. When we had a very hot summer, we could see the outline of it in the dried grass, as the pub car park was then very small. The Foresters' Arms, according to Historic England, is a Grade 2 listed building of about 1800. One. The Headless Horseman. There have been stories of a headless horseman slowly trotting his horse around the ancient roads in the area, which may be linked to an old story from nearby Newton Aycliffe. When the era of the trains began, the noise from them passing would often spook horses. One local tale is told that a horse spooked and threw its rider onto the rail tracks, hitting his head and lapsing into unconsciousness. Unfortunately, it is said, just as the train was then passing, which promptly decapitated him. Two. Willie Waff. Christina Lupton mentioned to the Northern Echo's Chris Lloyd in May 2020 that my parents were the licensees of the Foresters' Arms from 1958, and Ronnie and Doreen Eyre of nearby Hill House Farm and their son John used to be customers. When I was old enough to be behind the bar, I always remember John used to get drunk one night in August so that he could sleep in a hedgeback. He wouldn't go back to Hill House because that night was due to be the annual appearance of a ghost called Willie Waff. Apparently, his two younger sisters had seen the ghost and described it as being a Victorian gentleman wearing a top hat and cloak. He was supposed to have committed suicide there by hanging himself. Three. The Foresters' Arms. The Northern Echo on the 3rd of October 2020 detailed some paranormal activity at the Foresters. Back in 2008, Kate Umpleby, the landlady of the pub, said she was mysteriously locked in the cellar until she was discovered by her boyfriend in the morning. She assumed that thieves were responsible. However, she also mentioned about how her dog would whimper for no reason when coming down the stairs. Other landlords at the pub have commented on their belief that the haunting of the pub was by nuns from a nunnery that was on the site centuries ago. However, this seems to be some confusion with the medieval chapel. A group called Spectre Detectors conducted an investigation at the pub a few years ago and reported to the Northern Echo that, In the pool room, we kept seeing a large figure walking past the door in the bar. We picked up on a man who walked with a limp. We also picked up on plague victims, an old church, and an older lady with a stoop wearing a long grey dress and a white apron. We also picked up on a fire and people dying in it. There is, however, no record of a fire at the Foresters. "4. The Hallgarth Hotel. Bishop Anthony Beck, one of the most powerful and militaristic Prince Bishops of Durham, from 1283 to 1311, had a hunting lodge at Coatham Mundeville, one of his many hunting deer parks. It is believed that part of a wall and an arch remain from this early period. The present house, however, dates to the 15th century. The western part of its L shape is the oldest, and this contains a 17th century staircase with twisted balustrade and a Roman Doric doorcase. The two gabled wings are 18th century and 19th century respectively. At the front of the house is the park, with a late 18th century deer house. The Northern Echo reported on the 13th of May 2020 that the hotel is said to be haunted by a nun. It is said, isn't it always, that she was bricked up in a secret room and left to die after she was caught having an affair with a member of the family who owned the hall. Some sources say she appears once a year on a summer's evening. Other versions state that she's a regular visitor and that room 2 is not safe for lone women to sleep in. This is the haunted bedroom, replete with a wooden statue of a nun. I have, however, some first-hand reports of activity at Hallgarth from the Haunted Places website. Fiona commented on July the 15th, 2017, "We were in room 1, which is lovely, with fabulous views across the golf course. This morning, whilst my hubby was in the shower, I was laid in bed and it shuddered for about 30 seconds. This happened twice. It's a big, solid 4-poster bed, so can't give any explanation as to why or how this could have happened." Cheryl Marie Williams commented on December the 11th, 2018 that "My friend and I stayed in a room right at the back along a corridor right out of the way. We heard a couple shouting and arguing next door, and when asking the staff they said, 'There's no one in there,' and they never opened that room. We heard a whistle in our room, taps turned themselves on, and knocking on our door was heard numerous times through the night, followed by the sound of someone running down the corridor, but there was never anyone there. My friend was very freaked out, and although the radiators were hot, the room was ice cold." Stephanie McCluskey on October the 27th, 2020 commented that "My husband and I stayed there many years ago in room 2. It was the night before Christmas Eve, and on the stroke of midnight I heard a very loud crash, sounded like crockery, and then our bed lifted and shook as though it were in an earthquake. About 30 seconds after, another shockwave. Whilst I buried my head under the duvet, my husband said that the red LED light on the TV kept fading and returning, as if something was moving around in front of the TV. The following morning we went down to breakfast, and on returning to the room, both taps in the bathroom basin were on full flow, together with a cupboard door open, which we did not use at all. When we checked out, we were asked if everything was okay. We said no, and the receptionist reported that other people had complained about the room too. The next time that we stayed, we asked for a room in the newer part of the hotel. The receptionist reported that they did not hire out room 2 anymore because of the complaints. If I had some spare money, I would definitely try to stay in room 2.